Okay, I'm Austin Bell, and I wanted to go over some political causes of the Civil War. Some of the main causes to be considered were the collapse of the Whig Party, the new formed Republican Party, Uncle Tom's Cabin, and the 1860 election of Abraham Lincoln. The collapse of the Whig Party, the party would fall apart due to not coming to an agreement with the pro-slavery and anti-slavery debate following the Kansas and Nebraska Act in 1854. The Kansas and Nebraska Act allowed new territories and states to decide on their own if they would allow slavery in their borders. Due to the Kansas and Nebraska Act, anti-slavery Whigs came to an understanding that their party wasn't fully committed to halting the spread of slavery and ultimately departing the Whig Party and forming the Republican Party. Another reason why they departed was the Bleeding Kansas, I want to say, problem due to the Kansas and Nebraska Act that allowed popular sovereignty in these new territories. It would end up leading to violence. Disagreement amongst the pro-slavery and anti-slavery factions led to 55 people to their death, also being known as the Bleeding Kansas, showing that compromise could not be maintained and a side had to be chosen. The newly formed Republican Party, founded in 1854 as a coalition against the expansion of slavery, threatened the way of life and economy of the South with its goals of abolishing slavery in Western expansions and slave states, and was formed from Northern Whigs, such as with members as Abraham Lincoln, Chester A. Arthur, Benjamin Harrison. And another cause that also helped form a lot of political debate was the Uncle Tom's Cabin. Uncle Tom's Cabin was an anti-slavery novel published by Harriet Beecher Stowe. She would use this novel to bring attention to the horrors of slavery, originally published April 1st or May of 1852. Uncle Tom's Cabin would play a significant role in fueling the abolition movement in the North, opening the eyes of many to the inhumanities of slavery. Uncle Tom's Cabin would also become extremely popular, coming close to sales next to the Bible, changing the attitude of enslavement of African Americans in the North, even helping Abraham Lincoln secure his victory during his presidential candidacy. This is Harriet Beecher Stowe and Josiah Henson. Josiah Henson was the inspiration for Uncle Tom's Cabin. Josiah Henson was born enslaved in Maryland in 1879 and then would later flee to Canada, where he founded the Dawn Institute, which would later be known as one of the final stops of the Underground Railroad. He was a Methodist preacher who traveled throughout the United States and Great Britain, lecturing against slavery. Henson would later befriend Samuel Atkins Eliot, who would later serve in the House of Representatives. Eliot, impressed by Henson's story, would offer to write an autobiography for Henson titled The Life of Josiah Henson, formerly a slave, now an inhabitant of Canada, and narrated by himself, which was also published in early 1849. Stowe, who was inspired by Henson's autobiography, would later meet with him to be the model for her lead character in Uncle Tom. And Uncle Tom really helped open the eyes of the North and gained a lot of sympathy from the North. And I want to say it also helped skyrocket Abraham Lincoln's his presidency. I'm pretty sure I've already said that before, but it really helped out in just opening the eyes of how inhumane slavery was, because before, not a lot of people had a lot of empathy for Black people during the time. They just were more focused on the political part of things. The 1860 election of Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln's election brought fear to Southern states that would lose their state rights, slaves, and economic benefits, threatening to leave the Union if he was to win. Lincoln firmly believed that the country could not remain half free and half slave, so there was no way that he would accommodate to popular sovereignty. Radical Southerners, known as Fire Eaters, advocated for Southern secession if the Republican Party won the election. And due to the Confederate States coming in disagreement with the Union, they would break away after Lincoln's election and inauguration. 7 Southern states, Tennessee was one of them. They would secede from the Union and form the Confederate States of America. And Lincoln would disagree with this completely and refuse to accept really their existence and their departure, and seeing that it was his presidential duty to preserve the Union. And ultimately, they were going to go to war regardless, because no one could really come to an agreement or pick a side. Nothing was really working out, and obviously they were going to come to a war at some point. Here is my works cited.